Good evening. And I'm too loud still, but I think that can be corrected on the back. Welcome. My name is Viktor Mayer-Schonberger, and I gather that you had a very busy day. And you heard a lot of different viewpoints. You saw a lot of data and heard a lot of opinions. What I'd like to do as a closing keynoter for today is to do something completely different. That is not to give you the standard academic or Forrester research type presentation on what the world is or will be or anything like that. Instead, I'd like you and me together to take a deep breath and to sit back, relax for the next 20 minutes or so. And if you can, follow me on a meditation on privacy and the importance of forgetting. And this meditation is meant to give you a sense of impressions and expectations and fears and hopes of those digital natives out there that you will encounter. Stacy Snyder wanted to be a teacher. By the spring of 2006, she had completed her coursework and was looking forward to her teacher's certificate. Then, from one day to the next, her dream was over. She was summoned to the dean of her university and told that she would not receive her certificate. She would not be a teacher, although she had the credits, passed the exams, completed the practical training, a lot of them with high honors. She would not be given her certificate, she was told, because her behavior was not becoming of a teacher. Her behavior? A photo showing her with a cap and a cup, captioned "Drunken Pirate." Stacy Snyder had put this photo on her MySpace webpage for her friends to see and perhaps to chuckle. But the university administration found the photo to induce minors to consume alcohol and thus to be inappropriate for a teacher. When Stacy was confronted by the university administration, she considered taking the photo offline, but it was too late. Her photo had been indexed by search engines and archived by web crawlers. As much as Stacy wanted the photo to be forgotten, the internet would not permit that. Remembering instead of forgetting. Remembering. Forgetting. In 2001, Andrew Feldmar, a Canadian psychotherapist living in Vancouver, wrote an academic article for a journal. In the article, he mentioned that he had taken LSD in the 1960s. In the summer of 2006, like many times before, Andrew Feldmar wanted to cross into the United States to pick up a friend from Seattle International Airport. The U.S. immigration officer Googled Feldmar and discovered the academic article from 2001 because Feldmar had failed to disclose to the immigration officer, although he had never denied it, that he had taken drugs 40 years earlier. He was held, interrogated for 4 hours, fingerprinted, and then barred from entering the United States forever. Remembering instead of forgetting. Of course, you may say now, Stacy's and Andrew's cases are tragic, but at least in part because of their own fault. Had they not put information online, Stacy would now be a teacher and Andrew could still travel into the United States. Everybody has to decide for him or herself what to make available online. Or to paraphrase Friedrich Dürrenmatt, what once has been put on the web is no longer forgotten. Really? Do we really know every time information about us is being collected and made accessible? For most of us, Google is the search engine of choice. Hundreds of millions of people around the world send more than 2 billion search requests to Google every single day. Google is showing them the way. Google also shows us what is being searched for, where, when, and by whom, as I'm sure you have seen through Google Trends that give you, for example, here a sense of who searched for the search term Iraq, when, where, and how, in regions, cities, broken down in languages. Google is so good in capturing the sentiments of the population that Google last year, at the height of the flu epidemic or pandemic, H1N1 pandemic, used search terms to map where the flu was breaking out in the United States. And I'm now showing you a graph overlaying Google's prediction of where the flu was and how often it was occurring with the actual data of the Center for Disease Control of the United States government in Atlanta. And what you see is almost a perfect match. Google, however, in contrast to the Center for Disease Control, knew when and where the flu was breaking out weeks, months before the Center for Disease Control knew it. Google can do this even for events years back because Google does not forget. Since Google's humble beginnings more than a decade ago, Google has stored every single search query it ever received. And every search result you and everybody else ever clicked on. Through cleverly combining various information streams, Google believes it can link queries to people. Google thus knew for many years what each one of us has searched for and when, and on what search results you clicked. Quite literally, Google knew more about you than you can remember yourself. Remembering. Forgetting. For millennia, for us humans, forgetting has been easy. It's built into us. Biologically, we forget most of what we experience every day, our feelings, our thoughts. Remembering is hard. Since the beginning of times, we humans have tried to overcome biological forgetting and to hold on to the memories that are precious. For thousands of years, we have tried, like this Navajo, to pass on our memories to our children in the hope that they, too, may thus be able to remember. This is how the great epics of the world emerged thousands of years ago. But human memory is not fixed. It changes as we reconstruct our past. Depending on it is not sufficient, especially when we want to capture something precisely or for a long period of time. Painting is one way of encapsulating visual impressions to create an external, more precise and lasting memory, like this beautiful cave drawing from the cave of Altamira. Script, originally developed by, would you believe it, accountants searching for a precise method of remembering, has for millennia remained humanity's preferred external memory. Language, painting, script provided us with the capacity to remember through generations and across time. But these tools have not altered the fundamental fact that for us humans, forgetting is easy and remembering is hard, time-consuming, costly. The book did not change this either, neither did the phonograph or film. Remembering remained expensive for most human beings and was thus chosen carefully. In other words, forgetting was the default, remembering the exception. This enabled us to deal with time. Through our physiological capacity to forget, we rid ourselves of excess memory. What has been long past fades in our mind. Thus, we pay tribute to time and depreciate what is no longer relevant to our present. But because forgetting is biological, we humans never had to develop the cognitive capacity to deliberately forget, to depreciate memories, and to make them fade. Today, this is different. Google remembers, Yahoo remembers, Amazon remembers, the Internet Archive remembers, file reservation systems remember. File reservation systems remember? Yes. If you looked for a flight but never booked it, flight reservation systems do remember for at least 6 months, just in case they or the US government needs it. And not always do we realize that we have contributed to digital memory and made it accessible on the net. Take the example of photographs uploaded to Flickr. If you upload a photograph to Flickr, most of the time you also upload metadata, EXIF information associated with the photograph. If you have taken the photograph with a smartphone, in particular with any of the iPhones that has geolocation added to it, the longitude and latitude is part of that metadata that is uploaded. So what Flickr has is not just 4 billion photographs, it also has a physical profile, a profile of people moving around in space. And you can visualize that. You can mine it. It's a huge treasure that people are quite oblivious of. What I show you now is a map of London. The colored points signify how many people have taken a photograph and uploaded to Flickr at a particular point. The lighter, more intense the color, like red or yellow, the more people have taken a photograph from there. This is where you can see where most of the tourists take the photographs from. And you can see these beautiful maps online. This is an agglomeration, an aggregation of data of many tens of thousands of people. But I can break it down to you. From biological forgetting, therefore, we have moved to permanent remembering. How did this happen? You know this as much as I do. 4 elements. First, digitization. Second, advances in storage technology. In 1965, a young engineer by the name of Gordon Moore surmised that the density of integrated circuits, quote, might approximate a doubling every 2 years, unquote. Importantly, digital storage capacity, that's the orange line, has tracked the impressive increase in processing power that Gordon Moore first witnessed more than 4 decades ago. And if you think this is a really impressive increase over time in processing and digital storage, look at the y-axis. This is a logarithmic y-axis. If you would do a non-logarithmic graph, it would go up like this. But storage alone is not sufficient, and I come to the third element. The East German Stasi had hundreds of millions of facts in its files on almost 1 million of its citizens. Yet, with its elaborate system of pseudonyms and codes and mostly paper-based files, at the end it had difficulties retrieving the information it had in time. This too is different today. As full-text indexing, prohibitively expensive only a few decades ago, is so affordable that it's not only what drives our user expectation on the internet, but it's also built into most major file systems. Add to this the ability, fourth, to access information through a global network infrastructure. A few minutes are sufficient to disseminate a document, even accidentally, and have it distributed around the globe.